Yeah, no, like, I do feel like the need to come to its defense a little bit because I was so emotionally, like, triggered for the whole time.
Hi everyone, welcome back to After Broadway, the podcast where we deep dive into anything and everything musical theater. I'm Tara.
I'm Stefania.
And in today's episode, we're talking about Just for One Day, the Live Aid musical. I feel like we've talked about this show for like a year.
We've been joking about it. Well, there was a whole kerfuffle last season where when the season was announced, which is actually, this is season announcement day, so this is very timely.
Yes, it's February 4th today, the day of the Mervish season announcement. We will get to that later, but yes.
But remember last season, they announced the season, and they said one show to be determined. And then they said, it's Great Comet. And then they said, actually, it's Live Aid, the musical. This. We're chopping Mamma Mia. And then everyone was like, no, but I want to see Mamma Mia. So you had the option between Mamma Mia and Just for One Day. Yeah, remember that? So yes. Just for One Day was the final addition to last year's season.
But that didn't come in February, right? That must have come like a couple months later. Yeah. My parents did not choose
Mamma Mia.
Just for One Day. They chose Mamma Mia. And then when I was texting my mom the other day, she was like, do you think that we would have liked it? And I said, I think you would have really enjoyed the music. And she was like, oh, maybe we should still try to see it. And I know that there's like Rush readily available. I do think it's the higher tier pricing currently. I don't know if that will change. Again, we're recording this.
It's not that well sold at this time.
No. And then this is here until March 15th because it is going to the West End in May. And then I know that they have like a gala night in July for the 40th anniversary of Live Aid. But I do believe in our season preview, we talked about the fact that this had already played in the UK prior to coming here.
Yes.
All we know about that is I think you read headlines during that episode of reviews. And I think it was after that we were like, oh, I don't think this is going to be very good.
Well, the thing is, just look at this cover. The graphics, to me, this is actually a hot issue. I actually think all graphics out of the UK are kind of ugly. Like, every poster from there is not good. We need a new graphic designer for all of London. But yeah, and just the title, it's giving corny. So I know we've been kind of joking about this show, honestly, for the better part of a year. And we finally got to see it this weekend. And
cut to February 2nd, Steph cried for 2 hours straight.
I cried for 2 whole hours. It was crazy.
I actually am still beside myself over this. I looked over and at one point you're like taking out a Kleenex and wiping your eyes.
I ran out of Kleenexes. Like, I finished out my little purse tissue pack. So that was me.
And I'm just like, are we watching the same thing?
Honestly, like, I actually do have an explanation for this.
And then also that night was also the Grammy Awards, so it was like a very music heavy day.
It was. I've been thinking about why I cried, and there's many reasons for it, but I think the main reason is, for me, and I'm sure for many people in that audience, many people in the world, like, the music of that era, of that time, is extremely nostalgic to me. It is kind of like the music that, like, I was raised on with, so much of my music taste, so much of my music influences from, like, my dad. Not to, like, age my dad, but my dad, exposed me to so much music growing up, and we just listened to, like, everything that they played. And also, like, speaking of my dad, he loves, like, music history and would always, like, be telling me about music history, or we would be listening to songs on the radio and he would quiz me, who's singing this? Do you know who this is? This person used to do this. This person did that. So, the whole thing was very nostalgic for me generally. And then I'll also share, last night, my dad and I, and my mom was also there, but she was not paying attention, but my dad and I watched the 50 Years of Music in SNL special.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 minutes in, sobbing. Like, I was like, am I okay? Am I well? So I just think, like, music, it gets me. This is why I love musicals generally, but, like, music really. And so, like, 2 minutes in, they're singing Heroes by David Bowie.
That's when I was like, I was shook. Like, we have just started the drum beat, and Steph is wiping tears.
Nothing's happened. I was like, his turn noticed I'm crying.
I noticed.
I don't know if I would notice if you were crying, but like I could not hold together.
It was the digging through the purse that really got me.
I was halfway through the act, okay? Like really tried to like.
No, I turned, like, I don't know what I was looking at one point. I think maybe someone was like walking down the other aisle, like closest to where you were, maybe after like the first song. So I had like turned my head and I saw the tear stain already.
Okay, and then this is the actual thing. I got home. My mom's like, "What happened to your face?" Because I had tear tracks down my makeup. Like crazy. I've never seen myself look like that. Anyway, I'm crying now because it was so funny, but it was just emotional.
Can't wait. You better mark this down now for our year in review at the end of this year of like most tear-jerking show.
Nothing that happened in the show caused tears for me. It was just like the music. It was like so all encompassing. So that's where I'm at. 1 minute in, sobbing.
Okay, well, all that to say, do you want to give us a little synopsis of Just for One Day, the Live Aid musical?
So, Just for One Day, the Live Aid musical. Okay, where to even begin? Because it's kind of hard. We begin with a mother-daughter. The daughter's about to go off to college, and the mother wants her to bring a magazine about Live Aid, and the daughter says, "That's in the past. Who cares?" Who should walk onto stage? Bob Geldof himself.
Well, not the real one. He was there that day.
He was there. Bob Geldof himself says, "You know what? We were doing our best." And then they kind of, Bob Geldof kind of narrates how they got, what were the series of events that led to them putting on the Live Aid concert. So they started with, they saw the film clip of the famine in Ethiopia, and that inspired him to get a bunch of musicians together to create a charity single where all proceeds would go to the famine in Ethiopia. Then they did that, and they were inspired, and then musicians in the United States were inspired to do the same thing, so they released a charity single, We Are the World. And then Bob went to Ethiopia, and saw that the money and the food that they had sent with the money that they raised was not reaching the people, and it was not helping feed the children in Ethiopia, because it was actually so much more complicated than he could have ever realized. And so he went back and he's like, we need more money. So his idea was to create a concert where all proceeds, and it was like a telethon that they would put on with musicians, like the most famous musicians in the world, one in London and one ended up being in Philadelphia. And they raised, over 140 million, I think, by the end of it, to kind of then go back and, not solve the famine in Ethiopia, but be able to actually get the food to the children in Ethiopia. And all while we're watching this, there is this mother-daughter kind of observing and, narrating as well. Plus, we have the other side plot that is the mother as a teenager and her coworker at the record store.
Like falling in love.
And they're kind of, falling in love, but they also, have different opinions of Band-Aid and Live Aid, and you kind of see differing viewpoints of it through them as well. That was very detailed, actually.
It was, and I was going to say, if that sounds like a clunky storyline, that's because it is.
No, it's quite clunky. It is quite clunky.
All that to say, though, we should say, because I feel like we never actually say this, but we will start saying this more this year. We were gifted these tickets, but everything that we always say are 100% our own authentic thoughts.
I actually, let's take issue with that. I don't think we were gifted these tickets. I think we were invited as members of the press.
Yes,
okay?
yes. We are. All this to say, though, I think it actually, if you listen to that, just what Steph said, you'd be like, I don't think this is for me.
What's happening here?
And you might be right, but this is actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
But
I was worried it was going to be terrible. I really thought it was going to be terrible, and it was not terrible at all. It was actually, I would say it was like good with a lowercase g.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that I would quite, well, we'll see. The thing that I think everybody needs to understand here is that this is not entirely, but this is a Bob Geldof vanity project a little bit.
Sure.
And obviously
100%.
we can say this for like many things, but like this would not even exist if he was not involved, because why would it exist? Like, I don't think when you listen to that synopsis, or if you like go back and look at the history of what happened in the 80s for this live aid concert, you'd be like, gotta turn that into a musical. And I think for me specifically, like trying kind of hard to like put a storyline to this already like factual event with like I think there's like 37 songs in this show, something like that.
A lot of songs.
It's like a very high like count of music in this. It just like those three things together, it just like does not work as an overall like fully formed musical to me. I just think like this probably could have just been a concert. It could have been like a review, because the characters are so like
a concert.
Mid.
I do think the framing device of the mother-daughter
should be cut.
Should be completely cut. I understand where they're going, but I just don't think we need that necessarily. I don't mind necessarily the story of the mother as a young woman, kind of, just and like, her coworker at the record store.
Yeah, just as like
maybe
someone that's passionate.
Need, like, maybe one other side plot. Mm-hmm. I think maybe you do need maybe one other side plot, but I don't necessarily think it is the modern day mother-daughter.
But then we also have that like kind of other side plot about like Margaret Thatcher, which I also think should be cut.
Well, oh right, I totally forgot. I totally forgot about Margaret Thatcher completely. How could I? I just blocked it out. Yes, there's that. Was not included in the summary. No,
but basically just that little backstory is that like they're trying to get money from like the British government. Like,
well, the British government deducted taxes from the earnings from the song, and they don't want to have to pay tax. They want all that money. They promised everyone that all the money would go to the famine in Ethiopia, and it didn't because they had to pay taxes. Which, like, as an accountant, you know.
Please get into it.
Like, you know, I think the musical actually, like, it does, you know, speak a little bit on how kind of naive Bob Geldof was at the time. But, like, I think we could have gone more into how kind of in over his head he was with this whole thing. You know, he just kind of said things and did absolutely zero research into how it would work whatsoever. Like, why didn't he set it up as a charity? Because, like, he didn't know. And you know, he took action immediately, and that is commendable, but yeah, it's like, well, yeah, you have to pay taxes on your business earnings. Like why didn't you know this?
Yes, but I also think like this is the main like fault of the book here. Like, we do not dive deep enough. And I'm like, is that because Bob himself was like, we are telling this story exactly how I know it, word for word. Like, that's kind of how it feels at certain moments, especially like being in the theater when he's in there watching someone play himself on stage. Like, are there moments there that are like, I'm recounting this exactly what happened, and there's only one, like, we are only seeing his side of this story. We are not really seeing anybody else's side to this. Even though there's like all of these other musicians that are part of this storyline, like the only person that we're actually hearing dialogue from is Bob.
No, for sure. It definitely is from his perspective. And I almost think, no, I don't think Bob Geldof is interesting enough, let's say, well, maybe, I don't know, but I don't think we'd ever get a bio-musical about Bob Geldof. This is kind of...
It's like as close to a bio-musical that you would get.
Yeah. You know, it is kind of, because it, you know, it's delving into one specific period.
Which we ask for all the time.
We do, we like this. We do like that, kind of. I do think that is, you know, let's say a strength. It's like, okay, we don't need to hear like a birth to death story. We're like, this was maybe the most interesting portion of this man's life. Let's kind of delve into that. But yeah, it is very complimentary to him. And they do kind of bring up like little criticisms, let's say, but not enough, maybe. It just brushes over.
That's also,
Yeah,
like, all to say, too, that, like, he is still working with Band-Aid. Like, him and the Band-Aid board members were on the stage at the end of the night, and, like, 10% of the ticket proceeds, which not enough people are talking about, so we're going to say this here, that 10% of all of the Live Aid ticket proceeds, just for one day,
the
ticket proceeds on Mirvish's website, like, go to the Band-Aid, like, corporation, I guess.
Yeah, the Band-Aid Trust, which still is working to end hunger in
like I don't
Ethiopia and other countries.
I don't doubt that, like, throughout his entire life of, like, activism, that he has done great work, and he's obviously learned so much more now than, like, how old was he when he did this?
Oh, probably like 20s, 30s, I think.
Yeah, he
Maybe
was
30s.
they talked so much in this show about how, like, everyone was, like, stoned and high and, like, you know, like, drugged out. So, like, I don't doubt that, like, as a 20-something-year-old who was, like, probably doing a lot of drugs and making music at the time, like, did he know what he was getting himself into? Absolutely not. Like, he definitely did it.
No, for sure. For sure he did not. 1951. So, yeah, he was, like, in his 30s when...
Okay, still, he was still, there's a whole scene about smoking, about doing cocaine. So, like, you know, it's very relevant to the time period.
No, for sure. But yeah, I was just trying to kind of get the accuracy. In 1984, when he saw the clip, he was 33 years old.
Speaking of the book, this is written by John O'Farrell, who wrote Something Rotten.
I know, I saw that. You know, I'm a hater. But,
yeah.
At least, to me... I did not mind this as much as Something Rotten. This, I was just like, okay.
There's no book here.
I don't know.
So maybe that's
why.
No,
I know. That's the thing. It was just nothing.
However...
Whereas the Something Rotten one angered me.
I mean, there's no book here, but we've also just talked about cutting 2 major plots. So, like...
No, I know.
Yes and no. I actually think my main issue with this is kind of, like, that mother-daughter framing device. Only because... The daughter, Gemma, that actress was wearing a backpack for 2.5 hours straight, and I was, like, furious about that until she takes it off at the very end to sing one song. But they kind of, like, place it in this way of, like, this girl doesn't know about this, like, big thing that happened, so she's learning about it through her mother and through Bob Geldof and, like, through whatever, watching things on TV, reading, researching, whatever, before she goes off to school. And then, like, anytime that she has these, like, side... conversations with, like, the woman in Ethiopia or, like, any of the other characters, they're always talking about how, like, no one is doing enough now, and how, like, there's many, like, Gen Z, like, roll your eye lines in this script, but then it all, like, comes down to the very end when they decide that, like, this isn't a one-time thing, this will go on for... not Live Aid, but, like, famine and, like, struggles and everything worldwide, like, is not, like, a one time we have to stop, like, we have to keep our feet on the gas, whatever. And they sing, what song is it that she sings?
My Generation?
Yes, My Generation.
Did she sing My Generation?
And I'm just like, I know what you're going for here, but the way that you're framing this is as if the prime target audience is Gen Zs, and they are not seeing this musical. So at that moment, I'm like, you are offending the boomers who are the target audience of this musical, and I'm just like, I just don't think your book was written correctly for the target that you're trying to hit here.
I don't really agree with that. I don't think her, you know, I don't think singing My Generation
not just that, I think the,
boomers,
like, culmination of everything that she said about, like, we are smarter than you guys. I will not take my foot off of the gas. I'm like, but why are you saying that, like, people older than you are putting their foot on the brake? Like, that feels like, wrong to me. That is also the main critique out of the, like, UK reviews.
Really?
Is that like they're hitting the wrong mark on their target audience, because the people that they're trying to be like, are you listening to me, is not the generation that's buying tickets for this show. That's so
interesting. That is, like, not the message or the takeaway that I got in any way. I think the idea, or what I took away, or what I think they were going for, is, like, the difference that one person's idea or one person's passion can make, and kind of, yes, like, speaking to young people who weren't around at the time, like, you know, doing one thing, doing anything, like, is a start, is enough to keep going, which is, like, a very corny message. But yeah, I didn't get the the generation war angle from it necessarily.
I just feel like every time she talked to like Bob's character, it was like, you don't understand what I'm trying to like get across here, because like we are not the same. She said she was a Gen Z like 5 times. I'm like, I get it.
Sure.
I get it, girl.
Sure. Yeah.
But then I also think, as you're saying, of like, it's a corny way to bring that message. It's like, why did we wait like an entire show for her to finally like do something at the... It felt like we're running out of time.
Well, I mean, if
we
she
gotta
did in the
tie,
middle,
if we got to tie this
then
up,
it's over.
Right.
Well, yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
saying maybe it should have been done in the middle, because 2:30 you have a runtime for like basically the same thing happening over and over again.
They want to get all the songs in though.
Yeah, that's my other main critique, which I know is like your favorite part of all of this, which I agree with you. We talked about the fact that like this does not do the like conventional bio jukebox musical of like an impression of characters. The only person that's giving an impression is the guy that's playing Bob Geldof, who is...
And Midge, your...
What is his name? Bob is played by Craig Ells, and Midge... And Midge is played by George Ure. They're the only two that are like giving a straight impression, whereas everybody else is kind of just like doing a different take. It doesn't matter. Anybody could be playing anybody of the people that...
Yeah, it's more of a suggestion of each song. That was, I think, my favorite choice that they made. I think the smartest choice that they made was to not try and dress people up and have them sing exactly the way the artist at Live Aid sang, because these are,
superstars,
some of the most iconic musicians.
Yeah.
Freddie Mercury's, like Queen's performance, Freddie Mercury's performance at Live Aid is probably, one of the most iconic live performances of all time. And so to invite that comparison is just always going to be a disappointment.
That cast member was actually one of the only people that was wearing a similar costume.
Yeah, they definitely had a suggestion.
Yeah.
The suspenders, like the tank top, definitely like they did do things to suggest, like the person who sang Boy George and David Bowie was in, kind of an androgynous look. The girl who sang the Madonna music was in like, lace and leggings and a mini skirt.
Like cut off,
so there definitely
like,
were suggestions.
Leggings, yeah.
Yes, exactly. There definitely were like suggestions of the person, but the girl who sang Madonna was black. Like we weren't trying to be directly the same person, and I think that was like probably the smartest choice of the whole production, because everyone sounded amazing. Yeah. They're just like, let's get the best vocalists we can.
See, I agree with all of that. It just became so repetitive to me after 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm like, I don't think we needed to hear every song from Live Aid.
But I guess I don't think we did hear every song.
We
from
didn't,
Live Aid.
but the ones, but the ones that we did hear
in 2 cities.
I wish it was more like. Because when we, at intermission, there was no track list in the program. I don't know if that will change, like, post when we've seen this. Maybe there, because it does say first edition, so it's possible that there could be a reprint. But when we got to intermission, you were trying to figure out the point where, like, the concert started based on, like, the song list.
It actually started, like, right at the beginning. Too. It was the whole thing.
Exactly. But for that reason, I think it would have been, like, a little more interesting to me, just because of the way that they had done all of these songs all the way through until that point of like, okay, the concert is happening, to do more of like what they did when like Madonna comes out and like Boy George comes out and whoever the other
more
person.
Mashups?
Yes, more mashup medleys, so we're not getting like full songs. That was just, it just becomes long. Your runtime becomes long when it's a 4-minute song after a 4-minute song after a 4-minute song.
Yeah, I guess for me, just because, like, this is some of the greatest music, like, I was not bothered in any way, because I was just like, wow, I just get to hear amazing renditions of these songs.
Yes, but when you're trying to, like, do a storyline, I'm like, we're losing the story to hear the music, so why is there a story at all? Why is this a musical? Like, that's what I kept thinking. It is...
There's actually, like, really not that much story.
No, it's like I would love to see this. I would love to see the script, because I wonder how many pages it is.
It's very thin. But yes,
because it's also sorry, not to interrupt you, but it's also in the sense of like these songs do not like push the plot forward.
No, we're not bringing the plot forward.
Like
we're
other
just enjoying our time.
Yeah, I just think of like, and we will speak on the show later in this episode, but I just think of like MJ, which also takes that like particular like time period.
moment.
But then I think of a song like I'll Be There, which we jump back in time and like all three versions of Michael are singing, but we are pushing that story forward. We never get this once here. You're just like, here's the song. There is
the one that I'm thinking of that kind of pushed the story forward a bit is, what's the Sade song?
Who sings it? Like what character?
Like Amara from
Ethiopia
sings it.
Who did you say sang it? Like in real life?
Sade. But maybe sometimes the person's name that they put up was not
correct.
The person singing, and I was like, why are they putting? And maybe this is just I don't know enough about Live Aid, but why did they put Elvis Costello up and then play All You Need Is Love? Like I'm so confused. Or maybe he sang All You Need Is Love at Live Aid.
How do you spell Sade?
Sade.
Sade? Like shade? S-A... Oh, no H.
Like Sade.
Sade.
No H. Sade. I can't believe Tara doesn't know how to spell Sade, okay? Like...
This, but going to back to what you said off of the top, like, I know this music, but, like, my parents did not listen to this music. So, like...
My parents didn't listen to Sade necessarily, but, like,
No, but none of this was nostalgic for me.
Nothing?
No.
None
we
of this
listened
was
to
nostalgic
like
for you?
the
Okay.
Bee Gees. We listened to like Earth, Wind
we
and
listened to that
Fire. We listened to like Bread in Chicago. We did not listen to like Elton John. We did not listen to like the Beatles. Like I swear we did not. So like
no, my family isn't a Beatles family either.
none of the like Freddie Mercury. Like I did not listen to this as a kid. We were like we were a Bee Gees house.
We're also, I would say, a Bee Gees house.
The Beach Boys. We are a Beach Boys house.
Beach Boys house? I don't know if we're a Beach Boys house. I would say, like, not to, like, you know, expose our parents' age, but all of our parents, I think, were in high school in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of, like, the disco era for sure. But speaking more, both my parents, like, were musicians, like, growing up and played, my dad was in a band. My mom was in, like, her school band. You know, I have no talent there, but I really think like my dad still to this day like keeps up with, you know, music.
Yeah, we were listening to like the WWE entrances at the time, WWF entrances, and then also
we were
like
not doing that.
Phantom of the Opera. Like
no, we were not doing that.
It was just very different. So like I actually didn't feel the same like sense of nostalgia that you did because I didn't grow up listening to this music. I think the song is It a Crime?
Yeah, I think you're right, but that's not on Wikipedia here.
No, it's not. The Wikipedia page is like very.
It's not complete.
It's not complete because there were things that there's
so new.
Asterisk here that was like added for Toronto. Then there's like a double asterisk that's like moved to Toronto West End. But then I don't see all of these things here, so maybe it's like kind of still a work in progress.
Well, like Wikipedia is just, you know, public updated, so
I don't know the last time this was updated.
Yeah, they don't have that kind of information. It's not in the
here.
program,
you know
so
what?
you have to like remember it, take notes.
Do we think it's in the digital program? Like Mirvish's digital program?
No, I just don't think they're like sharing that information.
The other thing that you said, and I agree with you, I actually think the bios of the real people should be in this program.
Yeah,
maybe a little more information just about like Live Aid in general.
Yes.
Because there is so little story, it's hard to like I understand obviously what happened, but it's hard to like fully grasp like everybody that was there and like how everything is moving along just in like with this musical. Like there's something at the very first page here, but like I don't quite think it's enough information.
It's not enough. No, I agree. I found a different playlist. It's Why Can't We Live Together by Sade.
Okay.
Is that what you said?
No, I said Is It a Crime?
Why Can't We Live Together? Yeah, Why Can't We Live Together by Sade. And it's mashed up with like In the Air Tonight.
Oh, yes. That was when the woman in
right?
front of you, when the drum beat happened, she was like shaking her head.
No, people were living. The woman, there was like, I think it was a woman in like the third row who after every song just like was putting up like her like rock hands like straight up.
I actually have heard, like we knew just because like it was media day that people wouldn't be singing along, but on Reddit, this has actually been people's main critique is the amount of people that are like singing along to every song. Because you know it, like if you don't know every song, you know almost every song.
You know so many.
Or you've heard like a chorus from one of the songs. So just a heads up, if you are seeing this and that's not for you, like you need to go into the show with that in mind, that people could be singing around you.
This is the number one problem with jukebox musicals.
They
honestly,
do actually call,
the audience
though,
does not know how to behave.
They did call, I think it was during We Will Rock You, I think they wanted people to sing, and like we didn't.
I think they want people to clap for We Will Rock You, you know? Like there's a known kind of sound that they want people to make.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Plot
sorry.
and everything aside, this is one of the most talented casts I've seen in a very long time.
Crazy. Everyone sounded amazing.
Me like hating on the daughter character, but when she sang My Generation, I was like, girl, where has your voice been all night?
I don't know if it's her, but that's on Spotify. That's available on Spotify right now.
She is so good. The girl that plays Gemma, her name is Faith Eiffel. I'm thinking about the blonde short hair ensemble woman who sang We Are the Champions.
Yes, crazy.
Eloise Davies. Also like the Boy George character here, like Jordan Cambridge Taylor, like really giving
Boy George. They did Bowie.
Yeah. And then the guy that sang Message in a Bottle, James Hamid, like we had standout ensemble members here that were chosen to sing like multiple solo songs.
That's the thing. You have to be dancing in the ensemble, but you also have to be able to kind of break out and do your own solo moment and then blend back into the ensemble. And sometimes I was like, wait, where did you go? I've lost you. And then you're just coming back around to be a soloist.
Yeah, like
crazy.
The set, which is not really a set, is almost like a bleacher that moves forward.
The band on stage.
And they use that for like the ensemble to sing in the background. And then there's like screens. That there's like one screen at the back, 2 screens on the side, and then there's like a teensy...
Like Screen X.
Yeah. There's like a teensy like record shop scene for a moment. Yeah. And then I think that's really it. Just like the big
there's
truss
like the Margaret
lights.
Thatcher...
I literally cannot...
The Margaret Thatcher like...
I'm still
number
standing.
10 Downing Street kind of. Well, I mean, like the little set for the meetings with her, the
little light.
And,
this woman also has a page and a half bio. Like, shout out! I guess you're an icon.
So she's famous.
Julie Atherton, like, what an icon! No, truly, my favorite person in the show though was the guy that played Midge, George Ur. What a freaking voice!
What a voice! What a voice! Yeah, I agree. He was amazing.
I don't really know enough about Bob Geldof to know like how great of an impression Craig Ells was doing,
you know,
except for at the end.
We did get to see Bob Geldof in action. He was in attendance, as we were saying, and you know, it's hard to know because I'm not super familiar with him. I did Google him the week before so I could recognize him, and then we were in line for coat check. I'm like, there's Bob Geldof, and we had to convince the guy in front of us in line. He's like, he's here. Like, we're like, yeah.
And then I was like, well, he's like, one, I don't think that man knew that it was like opening day. I think he was just like a regular paying patron. But when he was like, I think that's him. And I was like, well, he's a character in this musical. He's like, yeah, I know that, but like, that's him. And I was like, okay, like, I guess it's important.
No, because I was like, oh, there's Bob Geldof. He's like, he's here. And it was funny. So we did get to see him, you know, in the flesh, like speak. So to have something to compare to.
I meant more.
I wonder if he's like playing into the
voice.
characterization.
Like I don't know if his singing voice was quite. I don't even know what he sounds like. That like to be honest, as a singer.
Yeah, me neither.
Sorry to him.
Sorry to the Boomtown Rats.
Something I did want to bring up though was what they kind of what Bob like talked about a lot like at the end there of just like, you know, that whole like we cannot stop the action, we cannot. Like there are things happening like every day. We should still be donating whatever. But I thought it was like kind of interesting that like, you know, this was in the UK a year ago and a year later it's premiering in Toronto. And we just had at time of record, like a week ago, a Fire Aid concert that's basically like not doing the same thing, but like doing the same thing in a different like avenue of disaster. I just don't know that it was like what they thought it was going to be. It was also like a 6-hour event, I think, streamed on YouTube in conjunction like with the Grammys, because I believe the Grammys was also, well, they had the like QR code all during
it was almost like a telethon
the night of the Grammys. Yeah, so it was just like interesting to see that like something that was so relevant in the 80s is literally happening right now in 2025. for like a different
Well,
reason, but like a big concert with like the best in music today versus like the best in music back then.
I do think, it was such a revolutionary idea. You had these musicians who obviously have money, but, beyond that, not beyond that, and they have their talents, they have their musical talents. And so when you're thinking of what can I do, what can I give, like I can give my one gift, my gift of music.
Voice.
No, but really it's like, okay, what can I do? What is special about me that I can use to make a difference? And so you throw a concert, you have everyone attend. I actually think the tickets for the Live Aid concert were free, and it was mostly like a telethon that they aired on TV to get people to call in and vote. Call in and donate versus like making money from the actual attendance. And it was kind of a revolutionary idea at the time, but I definitely but it spawned so many other people, so many other concerts. 20 years later, if you remember Live 8, there was one here, and all over the world again, kind of thrown by like Band-Aid Trust again. Thinking about like Ariana Grande when there was the bombing in Manchester, and she threw a benefit concert, so as musicians, you think, what can I give? I can give my art to inspire people, to donate, to raise money. So it definitely was revolutionary at the time, but now it is kind of a go-to fundraising idea. Let's throw a big concert. We can sell like tickets, and then we can also use it to get donations.
Yeah.
And we can also use it to like bring joy to a place or a city or a community that, needs that joy.
Mm-hmm. It just felt very timely to me that like specifically we're watching this, and then 3 hours later we're watching like the same thing on a global scale at the Grammys. Like it just felt like, oh, this is obviously you can't predict these things to be timely, and it's a horrible thing that happened to even like have this conversation at all, but like it almost like puts things into a different perspective of like literally the thesis, I think, statement of this musical of like, it's never over. There's always something to care about at the end of the day. Like I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it should be a musical. Like that's really my main takeaway from this, is that like every character is so underdeveloped, including like the other side characters, like Jimmy, the sound guy, and I don't even know the other woman's name.
Marsha.
There we go. What's her job? Coordinator?
Management?
So, like, that's the thing. Like, they introduce these characters, but, like, we know nothing about them. We find out at the very beginning, like, the almost thing that was, like, disappointing to me is that I thought the opening number was so good.
That's why I cried.
And the way that they started to slowly set up these characters, I was like, oh my god, this is actually going to be...
It's going to be good.
A fully formed musical with storylines. And then immediately we took that all away. And I just don't know why we went that route, because like there weren't that many characters to focus on, so we could have given more to them instead of just like made them side pieces to Bob Geldof.
I think, when they did a musical like this, they had to make a choice. And we can debate whether it's the right choice or not. And I think, there's many factors, but you had to make a choice. Are we really going to delve deep into the story, or are we going to give the audience these songs, this music? And they chose number 2. They chose door number 2.
And I know why they did.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I just wouldn't call it a musical then.
No, like as a podcast here, where our job is to, let's say, like our job, but where we take it upon ourselves to...
Our unpaid job is to be enthusiasts. Yes.
To be enthusiasts, but to kind of critique and delve into why stage shows work, why they don't work. Like, yes, absolutely, the book, very sloppy, very shallow, very vain. Sorry, Bob Geldof.
No, it is, though. And honestly, I think if you said that to his face, he would probably agree with you.
Well, there is an article, and maybe we'll link it, where the first iteration, he's like, no, it's too much about me. and this
that's
is
shocking,
this is after.
because the product that
this is after that.
very much about him.
this is after that. Like, I think you do have to have, like, some sort of vanity, one, to, like, allow this musical to happen, but also to think that, like, some sort of ego to think, like, yes, I'm gonna solve the famine in Ethiopia. Like, that's insane. But, like, good for him. He had that boldness to do that. But, yeah, like, they chose the, I think, crowd-pleasing aspect to really lean into. And I can't necessarily say that's a bad choice. Like, we've definitely critiqued it, but I think for the audience that they're going for, and for the kind of energy that they're going for, I think they, like, went through the correct door.
But that's why the little parts of the story that they do specifically of, like, the Gen Z of it all really doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's why we said at the beginning of the episode, just cut that. If you cut that, then we don't have to worry about those avenues because they don't actually exist.
Do you just does Bob just, like, start talking directly to the audience?
Yeah,
or, like,
why not? Or, like, young Suzanne can, like, kind of lead this of, like, remember this, like, I don't mind that old Suzanne is there.
Yeah.
It's really her trying to, like, tell her daughter the story because she doesn't tell her anything. I don't know anything. I was also so confused about, like, Suzanne versus Paula. That's why, like, the story was
Yeah, I had to explain who Paula was to you. Okay, and I actually, like, not even to talk so much about Paula. May she rest.
The real disservice was to her.
The real disservice was to her. Paula Yates, who was Bob Geldof's wife at the time. So they have her portrayed as this, like, middle-aged woman played by the same actress who plays Suzanne, who is the mother. So she was born in 1959. At the time of Live Aid, she was 26 years old. And they have her being portrayed as a middle-aged woman. Like, sorry, Paula. You were, you deserved more here.
That's what I said to you at intermission. I was like, why couldn't another ensemble member have played her? Like, why did it have to be the one person that's playing the only character that we're supposed to, like, learn about, Suzanne?
I'm looking at pictures of her. She did have short blonde hair, though. So,
but the short blonde hair ensemble member could have played her.
I'm gonna send you a picture of her because
does she look just like her?
No. You're gonna scream.
No. But
She's stunning.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's what she looks like in this music. Wait, why did they put glasses on her? The choice was weird.
No, because they really, like, made her into this, like, deity almost. Like, she's like, my wife. He's like, my wife, Paula. She put an envelope on our fridge and said everyone who comes to this house has to put £5 in the envelope. She was like
a homebody.
Yes, is like the most. She was so glamorous. She was like a television presenter. She's like a Welsh television presenter. And then, like, not to get into her history, but, like, she, like, repeatedly cheated on Bob. They got divorced. She left him for Michael Hutchins, the lead singer of INXS, who then, like, she was kind of involved in his, tragic death. And then 3 years later, she herself died of a drug overdose. And then her and Bob's daughter also died of a drug overdose. Like, it's a very sad and tragic situation that we do not delve into here whatsoever, which is fine. No. Like, this is not what we're talking about.
But this is, like, what goes back to what I said at the beginning of, like, we are only seeing his side of the story.
Right.
And if that's how he portrays her, that's actually, like, sad to me.
Like, they make her, and again, I don't know her, but they, for the service of the story and to make everything look, like, so wholesome and so, like, well-intentioned, they make her into this, like, kind of, like, homely, no offense to the actress, altruistic, woman. Not to say she didn't have the envelope, not to say she wasn't thinking about the children in Ethiopia, but, clearly there were so many more facets to her that were not necessary to telling this story, but, she was clearly a very interesting woman.
She's wearing a knit cardigan and glasses as this character.
They have her put on little glasses like she's, like, a frail old lady, just, like, the song, and she goes into, like, a different accent, like her Welsh accent, I guess. She's like, the song is so beautiful, you really have it. And I'm like, who is this lady? And then to, like, learn who she actually was, and that's not it at all. We're just trying to portray a certain story. Yeah. So I went home and I was speaking to my parents about it, and they're like, oh yeah, she was this, and this is this. And I'm like, that is not.
That's not what we saw. That's
the impression I got. That is not the impression I got.
We haven't even said here that this is directed by Luke Shepard, who was in the audience. We are Anne Juliet fans, as you know. Yes. I wonder, like, if he has a relationship with the Mirvishes now, because,
Did he do In Dreams?
Why do I think he did? But maybe he didn't. Wasn't that what's his name?
That
the
was
other
David
guy.
West Reed wrote the book.
Yes, it was him. But maybe he did because maybe they worked on it together. I also like the first thing I thought of was Luke Shepard's name when I thought of In Dreams.
Yeah. Okay. I'm searching. Luke Shepard himself doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Directed by Luke Shepard. So yes, all his shows come in here to Toronto. So maybe he does have a relationship.
I wouldn't say that this is like heavily directed in any sense. Again, it's a concert, so like, yeah, I honestly think like my biggest problem here is that like it doesn't quite know what it's trying to be. I do want to read, it is paywalled, but if you are a member of the Globe and Mail, you can see this review. It's by, where's your name? Aisling Murphy, and the final like paragraph, they did not really like this. I think the Toronto store was much more like favorable to this to like this show as a whole.
Joshua Chong.
Joshua Chong, who's
Ashley
sometimes
Murphy,
like
Chong.
Not as like hot on things, but Joshua Chong liked this. They gave it 3 out of 4, but the Globe and Mail didn't love this as much, and this last like kind of paragraph. But ultimately, it feels like Geldof himself may have been too close to this project, almost certainly a condition of the musical happening at all, but a barrier to the Live Aid story being told accurately with equal consideration given to its historic wins and qualifiable missteps. The end result is unfortunate, an underwritten, superficial dance party with its potential for dramaturgical rigor left blowing in the wind.
Wow.
And I don't really disagree.
No, I'm with it. I'm with that.
I think the thing is
I was moved. I was moved.
Like, you can overlook the story because you were so moved by the music, but because I wasn't moved by the music, I can't overlook the lack of story. Yeah. That's kind of like where I think we are on this.
And I think they're counting on people being like me, and people being like the people sitting in front of us, the people sitting to the right of me, the people at the front throwing up their like rock star hands at the end of every song. Like they're counting on that being their audience for the show.
Whereas like the two people that were sitting beside me were younger, and I don't think they knew any of those songs.
Really?
So
funny.
Again, with that whole like framing device, if you remove that, I actually have like basically no problems with this show.
Really?
Yeah, I just think that like we've really framed it in a way that like we're trying to get young people to see this, and I'm like, it's not for young people, it's for my parents, it's for your parents.
See, I would say my biggest critique is, well, I would say chop Margaret Thatcher. Sorry.
Well, that actually just like has no place in this show at
all. But what I would say my biggest critique is I want to see like more critiques of Live Aid, of Band Aid, and kind of want to see like more of what went wrong, what were their missteps, what were the challenges, like and I felt like any challenge that we did see was just another opportunity to show how great Bob was or how amazing this all was.
There's a review, I don't know who did it, it was in London, but they called this like a white savior musical, and they say this at one point, but there is
the
like
lineup
that
is very, very white.
But there's also that like throwaway line, I think it's by Gemma, something about like she says it directly to Bob of like, you've melded Africa that has like 54 countries into like one thing, but then we don't hear about that again. I'm like,
right,
I don't get it, like that's an important line, why are we just getting rid of that, like at the but I think your critique is that we're only hearing one side of the story, so why would why would there be critiques on what happened, because we're only hearing like from him. I'd be interested to know whoever's still alive and had worked on this, like what they thought of Live Aid. Like I would love to hear from like celebrities that were on the phone with Bob who was like, you'll do this no matter what type thing. Like I would love to hear that. I would have loved to hear the 2 other Band-Aid people speak on stage, but we didn't hear that.
They did not speak. There's definitely documentaries about Live Aid, but at the end of the day, I do think for the most part they're Bob sanctioned and Bob complimentary. But yeah, and like, not to poo-poo someone who saw something and tried the best way they knew how to make a difference. Yeah. Like, absolutely, we all should. But yeah, I do think like the only way we learn or we can do better is if we see like the mistakes and the pitfalls, and this definitely does not show that.
Yeah.
It just plays like a little bit of lip service to that, but doesn't really like get into it in the way I would want.
But to their defense, because so much of this music is so like celebratory, I think it would have felt tonally so weird.
Sure. It is meant to be an uplifting musical.
Which I think is kind of a problem based on like what we're like critiquing here of like we're not hearing like I don't know, there was
no, it's a problem because they want you to walk away with like the message of like take action in your community, like give what you have, like give your gift.
I just don't know. I just don't think that this is the right musical to like give that response to. I also read a review that was like, I understand that they don't delve into this if this was with no music and it's just a straight play, then like of course we could get into like the nitty gritty of like what actually happened. But like, I don't know. I keep like I've referenced this show like many times now, but I think of something like Stereophonic that I think did what you're kind of asking for here, which is both. No, it's not based on like well-known music, but by only choosing to have, what is it, like 4 songs in that entire show, like we are getting into the nitty-gritty of what happened to this band while also hearing the music. And I actually think that like that was done in the correct way. But again, when you're looking at this 37 song musical, like you're not going to do that. You're here for a concert.
Well, I think the main difference between something like Stereophonic and something like Live Aid,
it's well
like
written.
Just for One Day. Well, that like obviously I was a lover of Stereophonic. That's another one like I absolutely sobbed through as a music lover. But I think where the major difference is that Live Aid, or Just for One Day, the Live Aid musical, they started with the songs and worked backwards. And for Stereophonic, they started with the script and then got the songs. And I think that's like the major difference here. The core focus of this, of Just for One Day, is always going to be the music. It's always going to be the songs, and everything else is going to be an afterthought.
The one thing to commend them on is the rights here for all of these songs. Congratulations.
Like, that's hard. Because Queen never wants to give stuff up. Queen never wants to give music rights away.
No.
Apparently the David Bowie estate was like very collaborative with them. And the musical is named after, a David Bowie lyric.
It also opens the show that
it opens with Heroes, and they say, just for one day.
Yeah.
That's when I cried. We can be heroes.
Yeah, I don't know. We also were talking about this way longer than I thought we would talk about it, but I guess...
No, I know. There's a lot to say.
I
think I'm good. I think I've said what I need to say.
Yeah, I just like...
Did you have a favorite musical moment, actually? Like if we're...
A favorite musical moment?
It's hard to say.
I don't know why I'm looking in the program because there's no music there.
It's not there. Not there.
Hang on, let me pull up the actual thing.
I'm gonna say the kind of like the like Madonna, David Bowie, was it like Run DMC or was that later? Oh no, it was Madonna.
Don't You
David
Forget About
Bowie,
Me.
And Simple Minds, like that mashup was like really, really cool to me.
And that's what I wanted majority of those to be. I again, like, everyone was top tier vocalist in this show. Like, if you were an actor that auditioned for this in the West End, like, these are all from London, these people that are here. If you knew that this, you had the opportunity to like lead solo on like some of the most popular music of all time, I feel like this is a dream show if you are a singer first. But I agree. I think that was my favorite. And then I really thought that the guy that sang Message in a Bottle was so good. Like, so good. That is the Act 1 finale. I didn't love the Ethiopia stuff. I thought it was very heavy-handed. Not gonna lie.
Well, for sure. For sure.
Very heavy-handed. Especially when, like, again, we're going to Ethiopia. We're hearing this, like,
Sade.
tragedy. And then we're like, we are the champions. I'm like, guys, I just don't. The tone is off to me. It's very off to me.
Here's actually a compliment for them. The sequence where they did Do They Know It's Christmas Time? And then they do Radio Gaga.
Yes.
And that whole sequence, like, it brings the plot forward, and we're doing Last Christmas. I thought that was like a really, really well done sequence as well, because it was moving that story through the music.
Yeah, I guess my main critique here is that, like, if you're only gonna have like 30 seconds of a storyline, then let's just not have a storyline and let's just make it a concert. I'd be interested to know about a previous iteration, because people have said that things have changed. I can't even imagine what that would be. I'm curious to know if anything will change between now and its West End iteration. I don't think so, because there's only like a couple months in between, but you never know. Yeah, I'm actually, I think what I'm most curious to see is what people think of it once it's on West End, if they'll be more complimentary than they were off West End.
The first time?
Yeah. I wonder if like a year difference, and again, like social climate, like changes people's opinions. It could.
For sure.
So it's, I don't know. We'll see when that happens. But all this to say, I feel like I really went on trashing this for a while, but I didn't hate it. I was just confused. I was just confused. Should we rate it?
Yeah, let's rate it. Okay, I gotta think of something. Okay, I got it. I'm gonna go. Wow, this is really
I swear
hard.
to God, if you give this an 8, like I'm shutting this computer.
No, I'm not giving it an 8. I'm between a 6 and a 7. I cried for 2 hours. 7 out of 10 Concords, okay? I was emotionally touched.
I thought you were gonna walk in here with like an 8 or a 9, and I was about to be like, I was like, this is our final episode.
No. I can understand when things are weak, yet I'm still emotionally impacted. Like, those are kind of unrelated, to be honest.
I wonder if you wouldn't have been emotional if you would have felt the same way.
Yeah, no, like, I do feel like the need to come to its defense a little bit, because I was so emotionally, like, triggered for the whole time. So, that's that. Okay, Tara, what's your ranking?
I'm gonna give this 5 out of 10. The Band-Aid singles that like Suzanne was selling from the record shop. I wish we were a little closer. I wanted to see if there was actually like a photo on the cover. It looked like there was, but I couldn't see exactly what it was from where we were sitting.
They probably look like the original singles.
I actually do, before we go to Obsession, I do want to shout out, because I feel like we're always kind of like haters of the sound in Mirvish theaters, but like sounded really good in there. The band sounded like really good. It's really loud, I will say. Like if you are someone that like has like hearing issues, or like you're sensitive to loud noises, like don't sit in the first 5, maybe even 10 rows.
It's really loud. It's really loud.
Because like at moments when especially, what's the song that like, I can feel it, what's it called?
Oh, In the Air Tonight?
When that drum beat hits, I swear the theater was shaking. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. The woman in front of us.
But yeah, sounded really good. And also, the lighting was really good. So shout out to like the people working at the back. We saw them when we were leaving. I feel like they were on it on opening.
There's like a line in the show, like doing technical sound things, and then they had like the tape like on the sound booth that said like doing technical sound things.
Yeah. I know we just rated it, but like, who would you recommend this to?
Okay, so I was thinking if my parents would enjoy this or not. Maybe. I would say if you are age 50 to 70, go see this.
And if you're age 50 to 70, I don't think you're listening to this podcast.
Unless you like birthed me, but like...
And if you happen to be 50 to 70 listening to this podcast, hey, and also like tell your friends to go see Just for One Day.
Thanks for listening. No, but like truly.
No, I think a little younger. I think like we could say 40.
40, sure.
Yeah.
It's the 40th anniversary of Live Aid, so yeah, that's why I say 50. But yeah, if you remember the Live Aid concert, go see this.
Yeah. And with that, Just for One Day, the Live Aid musical, is playing at the CAA at Mirvish Theater until March 15th, and tickets are readily available on Mirvish's website. So if you're in that age range, go see it.
And to say it again, 10% of the proceeds from ticket sales do go to the Band-Aid Charitable Trust, which is still working to, end famine in Ethiopia and other places. So, you can feel a little bit good about your ticket purchase.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. That's our thoughts on Just for One Day. And now it's time for our Obsession of the Week. We're hijacking the Obsession of the Week today because As I said at the beginning of this episode, today is
Big day.
February 4th, and it is the
Big day.
2025-2026 Mervish season announcement. Pre to today, we knew that Anne Juliet was coming, and it seems like they really have used that to campaign this entire thing. It's called the like Oops, I Did It Again season. It is all based around the sit-down production of Anne Juliet with a Canadian cast, which we're very excited for its return. But to go, I guess we should go in order here of like what's coming. We're not gonna like fully deep dive into this because we will be doing a Toronto season preview episode, but that's like not until September. So we're gonna give you a sneak peek now. Do you have the order in front of you, or do you want me to do it?
I do. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, give us the shows. We have 7 musicals this season.
Woo. Okay, we're starting in September with MJ the Musical. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, next, also in September, Alan Doyle in Telltale Harbor. Woo. Canadian musical, which we're excited. Clap after everyone. Okay, next we have the Canadian sit-down production of Anne Juliet in December.
Yes.
Exciting, we knew. Next, in February 2026, 1 year from now, we have Some Like It Hot. Then, in March, we have Shucked. In April, we have A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical. And finally, in June, we have The Outsiders.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, that's a lot of touring shows, we feel the exact same way.
5 tours.
Just to say, so last year at Galentine's Day, we were talking to some of the like Mervish team, and we made this exact comment a year ago about Back to the Future coming here this season because it would have been in year 1 of tour, and at the time it was still running on Broadway, which is exactly what we're seeing right now with The Outsiders. And I just don't think I thought we would ever get to a place where we would be in like year 1 of tours coming to Toronto. We were always a city that was like, see you in 5 years, see you in 6 years. And to think that like we are getting the 2024.
Like we're actually closing the tour in Toronto.
Yeah, like to get the 2024 best new musical like now is crazy to me. Like it's actually crazy to me.
Well, like 2 years after it won Best Musical, but yes.
Yeah. But like I don't know when the tour starts. I don't even know if they've announced when the Outsiders tour starts.
Yeah, no, I don't think it started yet.
So within like its first year of touring is very exciting. I do want to say that we have been calling A Beautiful Noise for years now. This is David Mervish's musical, and it actually turns out it is David Mervish's musical because he's bringing A Beautiful Noise here.
I'm on the Toronto Theatre Reddit. Say hi. We're there. And I commented on a post recently saying, A Beautiful Noise and Some Like It Hot have Mervish all over them. And here we are.
I actually
think, this
cut
season.
back to our year in review, I think you asked what I thought would come, and I think I said those two. But I also think I've been saying those two since we found out that they were...
I know. Eventually we're going to be right.
Speaking of what I just spoke on of singing in the audience, you better believe we're getting hands touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. The whole audience is going to be singing.
So my parents were like, let's see it. I'm like, oh God, oh, Beautiful Noise. What was I going to say? Yeah, so we've got 5 tours, which is quite high actually for a Mervish season, honestly. And then we also have 3 out of that thing, we have 3 jukebox musicals. So that's MJ, A Beautiful Noise, and Anne Juliet. So that's a little bit annoying.
2 bios also. Like 2 bio
musicals.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I will say, you know, the big thing about this season is it does feel very modern. You know, it's very fresh. If you're a Broadway fan who doesn't get to go to New York very often,
this is amazing.
I think you're excited by this season. I think this is a really good season.
But to like, we talked about this morning. I've seen 4 of the 7. You've seen 3 of the 7. I wouldn't change that because I love to travel to New York to see these shows.
Yeah.
But there is something about like, oh, I don't know. I just feel like we're not getting enough like Canadian premiere pre-Broadways anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I wish we were getting more of that kind of stuff. Remember
It's
for a
hard 'cause
second
there's
we
so
were
many
like,
factors that go into it.
oh my god, is Operation Mincemeat gonna go here first before it goes to New York?
No.
But the answer was absolutely not. Like
No.
Telltale Harbor, I guess, is like puts itself like
No,
in
that's
that
exciting.
realm,
I think it's good.
but it's not a pre-Broadway at all. I don't even think it's like in the conversation of being on Broadway type thing.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But all that to say, like, I am excited to see The Outsiders again. I'm thrilled that Anne Juliet is
Yeah.
having a sit-down production. I can't wait to see MJ
sure.
again. Like, that will be my third time.
Yes.
It will be your second time. Like,
My second.
I really enjoyed Shucked when I saw it. We are, like, crossing our fingers, but I know it's going to be a long time since she started. But, like, if we can get Danielle Wade to be in Shucked here, like, that would be super exciting to me. I don't know. I think, as you said, like, if you're a theater fan and can't get to New York, like, this is it. This is like the best that we've had in a while. But yeah, you were saying earlier that people on Reddit wanted like a classic show to be part of.
Yeah, where's the classic show in this lineup?
Yeah,
and I think the space for that is if Lion King continues to run in the Princess of Wales, and then we'll have Angela and the Royal Alex. The Ed Mirbish is so far, based on what we know, empty over the Christmas season, which is a big time for ticket sales. So I'm thinking maybe they can have a bonus show come over that time.
Should we expose like what we know is on Twitter? X, whatever we want to
the
call
Mirbish
it.
Insider?
Yes.
The Mirbish Insider? Wow. Yeah, so Mirbish Insider, it's a Twitter account. They say they're a Mirbish employee of 15 years, and they tweeted clues to the 7 Mirbish season shows. Should we try and match them up? I don't think it quite works.
Yeah, I can pull it up. I mean,
pull it up.
I don't think they're correct based on what.
Yeah.
I think it's like kind of like you can. Some of them are like, yes, dead on. This is exactly what this is.
Yeah. Beautiful Noise. Some Like It Hot, maybe like MJ.
Yeah.
Here was my theory about the Mirbish Insider, which I kind of still think that this is like a sanctioned Mirbish account that's just trying to create buzz.
Sure, and that's okay.
No, it's fine, but like
it got me and you going back and forth for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, we were thinking. I was on Reddit, but then the Reddit thread got deleted because you can't post X links on Reddit anymore. So
yeah,
on the Toronto Theater Reddit.
So they said, here are the clues. Show 1 was this country's superstar's complex life story comes to life on stage. That one,
none of these.
We didn't know. Yeah, we were also like,
no,
what is this?
Dolly.
Yeah, I was like, Dolly pre-Broadway? No, Dolly's going to Nashville. Show 2 was a glimpse inside the creative mind of this iconic pop star, MJ. Show 3 was the greatest love story ever remixed, Anne Juliet. Number 4 was, this one I had taken a guess, which maybe we could put 2, but like strut down the catwalk and find a life filled with glamour. I was like, Some Like It Hot, but I actually don't know if that's what the story is about.
Yeah, I think we could that's a pretty generic description. I think you can.
And it's got the like
anything on that,
red heel emoji. That's why I was like, I don't know, maybe that. So sure.
So we could put Some Like It Hot there.
Number 5, the story of a dreamer from Brooklyn whose classic song is heard at baseball games. A Beautiful Noise. Number 6, this was the one that we were like, we climb every mountain for love and flee the shadows of tyranny. It's The Sound of Music.
Yeah,
but is it Telltale Harbor?
What if it is? We're climbing every mountain against tyranny. I don't know.
No,
okay,
it's...
What's number 7?
Yeah. And number 7 is...
number 7 was Phantom.
Yeah, weaving melodies of love and obsession, but hiding from the world. The Phantom of the Opera. And when I tell you, like, did this create buzz? Like, I am going to, as I just said, like, we went back and forth for 45 minutes, and then on Sunday, I was looking up the national tour of The Sound of Music. So, like, I was there. I was invested. But I'm also always there and invested, so, like...
No, you're not really garnering new people if you have us dissecting a Twitter thread. But, like...
Also, like...
I don't know.
This account was created in January. It's got like 133 followers. So like no one's really, but it did make it to Reddit and people started to talk about it there. So that
the Toronto Theater Reddit is quite specific.
Small. Yeah.
I'm there.
Anyway,
what I will say is I'm excited for the Off Mirbish season announcement because I think this like current Off Mirbish season that we're in is quite good with Titanic, 15 Dogs, like Life After is coming.
Thanksgiving Play was here.
Thanksgiving play. Like, I think it's a pretty good off-Mervish season, so I'm hoping similarly this upcoming season.
This should be like
April for that
announcement. End of March, April-ish. Yeah.
I thought Telltale Harbor might be in the off-Mervish, but I don't know.
Yes, I remember we were talking about that like a couple months ago. That was like the rumor was that it would be at the CAA, but it's here. It's in the main season.
My guess is it'll be at the Royal Alex after Come From Away / Comet and before & Juliet.
And after
and then
TIFF.
Everything else will run at the Ed Mervish and post-TIFF.
Yeah, we kind of like figured things out based on like timelines of what typically happens in the city here. The Royal Alex and the Princess of Wales are always like shut down for TIFF in September, and then that's like typically right after TIFF is when the new seasons begin. What we were doing right before we jumped on here was trying to dreamcast the Canadian cast of & Juliet.
Please give it.
And
we're trying to figure out who is the Joey Fatone of Canada.
But yeah, like our main that's actually my main mission now, is to find the Lance character. But as I was like sitting here being like, oh, we're gonna talk about the season, I'm like, what about Shalina Kennedy as Anne Hathaway?
I mean, sure.
I just think it's like it fits. Like I just think it fits. I know you said Tess Benger.
Is this her voice? I said Tess Benger.
But like, Shalina's like a household name at this point. She's doing Life After, so she's back with Mervish.
Well, we were saying, like, can Jake Epstein do Shakespeare? Like, would he do it?
Jake Epstein and
Dreamcast Sean Desmond.
No!
Reunited again. Sean Desmond as Shakespeare. Who else is, like, a Canadian, like, pop star, but, like, who only is, like, Canadian? Like, not Bieber or, like, Shawn Mendes, like...
who only stays in Canada.
Yeah, like, who survives on the CanCon laws that require Canadian radio stations to play them. I don't know. So that's kind of where we're at. Please, like, in the comments, like, leave ideas.
Yeah, because I was saying...
Who is the Joey Fatone of Canada?
I was saying to Steph that, like, when I think of, like, Canadian people, I think of women, which is, like, great that that's the first thing that comes to my head. But when I'm trying to dreamcast Lance in & Juliet, like, a woman's not helping me here. What about Nurse?
Yeah, I was going to say, who's going to be Angelique?
Juliet and Romeo and Francois and May will all be just, like, you know...
New people.
Maybe some newcomers, maybe some people that, like, we've seen before in shows. We've been wondering if Brandon Antonio will return, if Matt Raffi will return, because they're both from Toronto. And now that it's going to be in on home turf, like, is this something that they're interested in going back to?
Who is the Charlie D'Amelio of Canada?
But yeah, so our obsession this week is the Mervish season. We will talk more about this in September. Hopefully in September we'll actually have some, like, casting news, because specifically & Juliet is going to be starting in December. So hopefully around that time is when we'll find out about...
They've been doing, like, open calls in Toronto. So
I'm just thinking of, like, people that, like a Kaylee Harwood, who understudied for Veronique Claveau, and like a Julia McClellan. Like, these girls would kill it in, like, the Anne Hathaway role, but, like, are they big enough? Love them both, but, like, are they enough? I actually don't think the show needs anybody, like, famous to do it.
No,
because
I know.
It, as said in the press release, like, this was one of the most, like, well-selling shows when it was here a couple years ago. I mean, you and I funded that show many times.
3 times. We just saw it when we were in this past New York trip, and we're like, wow, this is the final time we'll ever see & Juliet. And then we're like, it's back!
And now I actually think, like, is this going to become my most seen show? Probably.
Maybe. What would it be? That you've seen it 5 times now? I've seen it 4 times? I mean, my top show is 6, which I've seen 7 times.
Mine is Wicked, which is 9, so it's still far away, but...
I just need to see & Juliet 3 more times, and it ties 6.
I think it's possible.
And I think it's doable. I think I'm going to do it.
We've talked about the fact that, like, is this a once-a-month situation?
That was what we did for 6, essentially, like, once a month.
Bring everybody we know, because I don't feel like we brought everybody we knew when it was here before.
No, because they started selling out. I wanted to bring my friends. It sold out.
When the rush jumped from, like, 45 to 79, and then the entire run was sold out, like, when
lottery went kaput.
Yeah, like, It sold. It's so.
I won the lottery. Like, that's
I know.
that's how OG I was. I won the lottery.
I know. It's very exciting that it's back. We've said this on a previous episode, but like we will be speaking on it all the time. So like prepare to be sick of us.
I'm ready.
Remember when there was a moment based on the like Mirvish Insider? I was like, wow, the Devil Wears Prada is coming here.
Yeah.
We have no UK imports.
To, like, shame someone.
Speaking of UK imports, we have no UK imports.
Not to shame someone on like Toronto Theatre Reddit, but they saw like a new twist on a Shakespearean classic. They're like, well, the Rachel Zegler Romeo
I saw.
To end. Sorry, ma'am. We need to do a vibe check on Toronto right now, like 0%. 0%. Like, you gotta be realistic. This is like when you're watching The Masked Singer and they're like, is it Lady Gaga? No! It's not Lady Gaga.
Never Lady Gaga.
It's a D-list celebrity. It's Kathy Griffin. Like, no. Anyway, gotta be realistic.
And I feel like that is the perfect way to end this episode. So yeah, that is our thoughts on Just for One Day, and that is our obsession of the week. We cannot wait to talk more about the Mirvish season when it comes, and we still are in the midst of this current season, so you'll be hearing more about the shows that are playing this year as well, as we go through the months. But if you want to listen to any of our other episodes, you can do that by subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and also watch us on YouTube. We've been really enjoying reading the comments on YouTube. So if you like what you see, subscribe and leave us a comment.
And you can follow us on TikTok, X, Instagram, at Off to BOA Podcast. That's for X and Instagram. And at Off to Broadway on TikTok.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye!